At our son's birthday, my AP sent me a long text about last night. My husband read it out loud. He was planning on ruining things for me that day. He wanted to make sure I didn't get to be happy, and he managed to do exactly that, within seconds. Everything was going on so well. But just one single thing just ruined everything. My life was completely over. Over that one text, and he did it on purpose. My AP, he sent me a text, a very long one, about our last night together, and my husband had been the one who saw the text, and he read it aloud at our son's birthday party, to everyone there, our friends, our families, my colleagues at work, and even our kids. The shame, the horror, and the fear that I felt all at once was just horrible, and since that day, I've been reliving that moment, especially because my life has since then turned upside down, and I have no idea how to fix anything. My name is Angie, and I've been married to David for nearly 10 years now. We have 3 kids, 2 girls, and 1 boy. Our son's party, which I ruined with my lies and secrets, was his 17th birthday. Alex is actually my stepson. He was 7 when I first met him. David introduced me to him when we started dating. He was really smart and easy to love. I treated him like he was my own son. And when his dad and I got married after 2 years of dating, he started calling me Mom. His mom, who was David's first wife, ran away with her lover, and it took them a lot of time to heal from it. David told me he swore never to remarry until he met me. He hated liars and cheats with passion. He couldn't tolerate them, especially after what his first wife did. Alex never really knew his mom. He was going when she left, so he didn't have any memory of her. And he also shared the same opinion as his dad. You would think that knowing that would have scared me into not doing the things I did, but sadly, it didn't. I thought I was just having a little fun. What they didn't know couldn't hurt, right? I honestly didn't plan on cheating on David. I really did love him, and we got along pretty well. I got pregnant with my girls pretty quickly. David pampered me throughout my pregnancy period. He convinced me to stop working at that time, and I agreed with him. It was a reasonable idea, not just because David was rich enough to take care of us, but because I had a high-risk pregnancy. So I was required to take more than enough rest, and David wanted to ensure that. I planned on getting back to work after giving birth, but after giving birth to my first girl, I became pregnant before she was 1, and I couldn't go back to work. At first, I really didn't mind. I love my girls very much, but it didn't mean I liked not being able to work. I started to really hate staying at home. It took a long time before I could start working again. The girls were already 5 and 4, and Alex was 12 years old. It felt like I took half of my life off to take care of the kids. And when I finally tried to go back to work, I had been replaced. The promotion I had been vying for years ago, it had already been given to another person, my colleague. Luckily, I was given my job back, but not just the exact one I wanted or had years ago, and it was quite painful. I literally had to start at the bottom again. I needed to blame someone or something, and I didn't want to blame the kids for it. So I blamed David. He was the one who got me pregnant in the first place. It was his fault I had to step down, just when I was at the peak of my career. It was him who convinced me to stop working. And I know it sounds stupid that I would blame him, but I just made myself believe the lies I told myself. And for years after that, David and we grew apart. I was always working. I wanted to gain my position back, and I pushed hard. I didn't have time for the kids anymore. It was their dad who took them to school and brought them back. He was the one who cooked them dinner and lunch. He was the one always present for their school talent show or birthdays. I spent nearly all my time traveling and trying to make up for what I thought I lost over the years. I did get the promotion I wanted after putting in a lot of hard work, but it didn't satisfy me. I thought that if I got that, I would eventually settle back in and spend time with the kids again. But so much time had passed, I just didn't know how to anymore. Sitting with them in the dining room was always awkward. I felt like a stranger amongst them. Their loud noises and arguments. I was never involved. I didn't even know half the time what they were talking about. But David, he knew. He would laugh along, or even raise another point for them to argue about. I was the outsider in our home, and it was really painful for me, and stupidly, I blamed David again for it. We argued a lot over the years. Some arguments were so angry and bitter that sometimes I was afraid he would divorce me and take the kids away. He had a better chance of winning any custody lawsuit against me. And I knew the kids would choose him in a heartbeat too, so it made me despise him even more. I continued spending my time outside the house. I felt like I wasn't needed anyway. Even when I didn't have to work, I preferred to stay until I knew the kids would have gone to bed. I didn't want to create awkward moments for them, or me. Only David always stayed awake until I came back, even when we have issues. He will wait for me before going to bed, even though we started sleeping in separate rooms years ago. It was my fault. I proposed it. I told him I worked late into the night, and I didn't need his loud snores interfering with my work. David tried to convince me, but I moved my things to the other room the next day. Our sex life from then on became nothing. Nothing to write home about. Whenever David tried, I was either too tired or too busy, and the last time he tried, I called him inconsiderate and selfish. Since then, David never tried again, even though I desperately wanted him to, but my pride wouldn't allow me to move back into our bedroom or try to initiate sex between us. And things continued that way until a year ago. Something happened, and it changed my entire life. Our boss was retiring, and he decided to hand over the reign to his nephew, so we had to plan a send-off party for him. We had been told that we would get to see our new boss at the party. The party had been a 1+1 event. You were supposed to bring a partner with you. I knew that, because I was the one who planned everything. But I went alone. I did ask David to come with me. I didn't want anyone at work thinking that I had a problem in my marriage, but David had refused to come. He told me that he had promised to take the kids for a late movie night. I was pissed at him. I couldn't believe he chose to honor his words with the kids and embarrass me instead. Initially, I planned to actually take the initiative between us that night. I thought being around other couples would help us get back our lost connection, and that I was going to try to awaken our sexual relationship. But he chose the kids over me instead. So while the others were dancing and enjoying the party with their partners, I pretended to be busy with making sure the party was successful. When anyone asked why I was alone, I told them that I would probably abandon my partner if I brought him, because of how busy I was. I made it seem like it was my choice not to bring David. And then finally, our old boss decided to give an appreciation speech, and finally introduce us to our new boss. I was so shocked when I saw him walk on the stage. It was him, my ex-lover and boyfriend Simon. I had no idea that he was related to my boss, and he must have known I worked for his uncle, because the moment our eyes clashed, he didn't seem surprised. Usually everyone went to him after the introduction, to introduce themselves to him. But I didn't. I was too shaken to see him, so I handed my duty to a junior colleague. I told her I had to go home. I lied that one of my kids was upset and needed me. She quickly accepted my excuse. She was a new mom at the time, so she quickly believed my lies. I went home quickly just to avoid talking to him that day. And as I laid in bed that night, I just thought about everything that went down between us years ago. The relationship between Simon and I had ended up pretty messy. He was someone I dated before I met David, and Simon hadn't wanted us to end our relationship. He had been obsessed with me at that point, but I was done with the relationship. When I first met Simon, we were both students in the same college, and we took the same classes. We became friends easily, and soon we became friends with benefits. We were just having fun. I didn't want to tag our relationship as anything serious, but Simon had apparently done so. He told everyone, our friends, our classmates, and even other guys that were interested in me, that we were together. He even started to threaten any guy that showed any interest in me. I found it cute at first, and eventually I decided to really date him. But Simon made it very hard for me to cope with him. He was too possessive, and had a lot of anger issues, although he was quick to apologize, with lots of gifts in fact. But I found it hard to continue with our relationship. Every time I tried to break up with him, he would beg until I had no other choice but to accept him back. His attitude was so frustrating. I didn't have any male friends because of him. He either paid some thugs to threaten them, or he paid to have their grades messed with. I knew I couldn't break totally free from Simon if we were still in the same space. So I secretly made plans to abandon him after graduation. The day before our graduation, I was still in the same bed with him. I was listening to him plan our life after school. He wanted us to get married and started having kids immediately. I knew he wanted to do that to assure himself that I wouldn't be able to cheat on him with a baby in my arms, but I agreed with him. I even told him how grand I wanted his public proposal to be. And when he finally fell asleep, I quietly left his house. We had started living together at that point, so I had already packed a bag and hidden it in the guest room. I took my bag and I took an overnight bus far away from him and his jealousy issues. I threw away my old phone and anything that reminded me of him. I wanted to start afresh, and I did, because it was only a year after I left him that I met David. But seeing him again after all those years, in the same office where I worked, I was scared of what he was going to do. He could have fired me or overworked me, just to have his revenge. I didn't know what to expect. I was so scared to even go to work the next week. I spent all weekend stressing about it, and I couldn't even tell anyone. David didn't know anything about my crazy ex. I only told him that my last relationship ended because of distance. I didn't tell him exactly what went wrong, or how I handled the whole situation. It was supposed to be my own secret. That Monday, I was summoned to Simon's office before I even got a chance to sit in my office. I was planning to push seeing him until later, but Simon had no intention of waiting around. When I went into his office, the first thing I noticed was the picture on the desk. It was of him and a woman. They were wearing matching outfits and similar rings. I was surprised that he was actually married. He saw me noticing the picture and told me that it was his wife. He asked me to sit, and then he told me that he really wanted us to work together as a team. He apologized for his attitude back in the day, and told me he understood why I left the way I did. He said he had been upset at first, but he eventually got it, and that he was happily married. So he didn't want us revisiting the past or having an awkward relationship at work because of it. I was so happy when he said those things, and it made me relax around him. Simon and I did start to work closely together. He consulted me for everything at work, and I didn't think of it as anything. I felt proud that my boss thought I was capable of making decisions for him. Then eventually, we started spending even more time together outside official work hours. It was only to discuss work at first. We would stay late at the office together, planning and working on the next project. Then Simon started inviting me on lunch dates and then dinner dates. It was harmless. Just a boss trying to appreciate his worker for the hard work she put in. At least that was what he made it sound like, and I agreed to them. But soon our conversation started shifting from work-related issues to personal grounds. He would talk about his marriage and how happy it used to be, until his wife had their child and focused all her attention on the baby. He told me it had been that way since then. I could relate well with him. I mean, we had almost the same problems. My husband would rather spend time with the kids than with me. So I shared my problems with him too. From boss to worker relationship, we became friends, and then rapidly comforting partners. It didn't take very long before a shift happened in our relationship to something that should never have happened. That day, I was really upset. I came to work that morning feeling really upset. David and I had an argument that morning. I cannot even remember what the argument had been about. But I remember David telling me that I was a selfish and inconsiderate woman who abandons her family and chooses work. I had been so angry that I slapped him in the face. It was the first time I had ever done that. Despite how often we argued, we had never resorted to violence. And my actions that morning shocked me. What was even more shocking was the fact that the kids, they witnessed it. They watched me hit their father, and it was obvious who they thought was wrong between us. I left the house that morning feeling rather disoriented, and when I got to work, I went straight to Simon, and I cried in his arms. I couldn't believe what my life was turning into. And Simon, he was there. He held me in his arms and comforted me. He even used the telecom to inform his assistant to cancel every meeting, and he told her not to allow anyone in his office at that moment. I felt loved. I know it sounds stupid, but his actions that morning made me feel some type of way, and I don't know why, but I found myself reaching out to him and kissing him. Simon didn't even hesitate before kissing me back, and then before I could fully process what was going on, I was half naked on his desk and we were having sex. It happened so fast. I didn't even think about the consequences of my actions, or what his assistant must think of me. She had obviously seen me going into his office, but I managed to console myself that it wasn't the first time I spent hours in his office, and each time she came around, we were always busy with paperwork. But it was different this time. There was no excuse of work or anything. We had sex right there in his office. I was so horrified by what I had done, and I just sat there on his desk without moving. But Simon clearly didn't have that same problem. It was him who adjusted his trousers, then carried me off the desk and wore back my panties and skirt for me. He even kissed me on the lips again, and thanked me for the great time. It was obvious that it was something he had expected to happen since he came back into my life. I tried to return back to my normal routine, but it was difficult for me. Not just because of the guilt I was feeling, but because I kept thinking back to that one time in his office, and how great the sex had been. And Simon didn't make it any easier to forget. He started behaving like we were together again. He got me gifts, sent me text messages even at night, telling me he missed me and hasn't forgotten our nice time together. He even started sending me old pictures of us together, asking me if I remembered them. It was all too overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do. And when I eventually made my decision, it was the most horrible one I chose. I gave in into Simon's sweetness. I convinced myself that he was the distraction I needed from my family drama. We started having sex again, so often that it started to interfere with my work. We would sometimes skip work together and go to some private hotel and spend our day there. Other times, it was a work trip, where we spend 1 or 2 of it actually working, and the rest for relaxing and enjoying our affair. But I was careful not to get pregnant. As much as I liked everything going on, I still didn't want to lose my family, and I didn't want to be targeted by Simon's wife. Our relationship continued that way for many months, and I felt right with it. But then everything changed suddenly. Well, at least for me. It was our wedding anniversary, David's and I. And I didn't even remember, because it had been so long since we did anything for our anniversaries. We barely even wished each other. It was only our early years of marriage that those things mattered. So I didn't even remember. But David did, and he wanted to make it special for us. That day after work, I was still planning on spending my evening with Simon. He had left work earlier. He wanted to go wait for me at our usual spot, and while I was packing up to go meet him, I was informed that someone was waiting for me downstairs. I was surprised when I got downstairs and saw David. He told me that he came to pick me up from work. I was so shocked and didn't know what to expect, particularly with the way he held my hand and kept kissing it, while he drove with one hand. I got another surprise when we got home. The house looked different. There were balloons, scented candles, and roses everywhere. And then one of the kids handed me a bouquet of fresh flowers. The others led us to the dining table and held out our chairs. Then they left us alone. I was so touched by the gesture. David told me that he wanted us to do something special, and the kids helped with it. He told me that he wanted us to work things out between us. He apologized for the years we spent apart, even though we were together. He promised me that he would do better. He told me that he loved me and will always do, and that he wanted us to try for our kids. I was crying by the end of his speech, not just because he was saying all the right things, but also because I had done some serious damages to our marriage without David knowing. I felt really guilty, but I managed to pretend well. David and I had so much fun over dinner. We talked about our first year of marriage and the kids' funny and cute moments. We laughed and ate. And after dinner, for the first time in almost 2 years, we slept together in the same bed. Not just slept together, but actually had sex after so long. It was the best sex we've ever had. And I remember feeling so happy wrapped in David's arms again. But my happiness was cracked when I woke up the next morning to see so many calls and texts from Simon. His text at first had been worried. He asked if I was being held up by traffic or something came up. And then they turned angry. He thought I was ignoring him on purpose, and he said so in more words than one. I was afraid to face him that day, because I knew I couldn't sleep with him any longer, not with my kids and husband making so much effort to reunite our family. They were together in the kitchen when I joined them, and for the first time in years, I took over making breakfast from David. I loved how the kids argued with their dad over me being a much better cook than he was. Alex asked me if I would continue making them breakfast, and I promised to. It was almost like life was giving me a second chance, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I knew I had to end things with Simon, which proved as difficult as I imagined it to be. I tried avoiding him at first, which was easy for the first week. He had to travel out of town for a week for work, and he didn't invite me to join him because he was still upset. But when he got back, he came bearing gifts. He told me that he was sorry for his harsh actions. He wanted things to go back to the same way with us. But I didn't want that. I was in a good place with David and the kids. I was even now included in their picnic dates. We ate together every day as a family, both breakfast and dinner, and I loved it. When I finally told Simon that we needed to stop, he got really upset with me. He told me that I was leaving him all over again, and that he wouldn't allow it. He was so upset that day that I was scared he was going to hit me, but he had instead grabbed me and forcefully kissed me, and he forcefully had sex with me that day. My mistake was going to meet him at our usual spot. I wish I had told him over a text or even at the office. Then he wouldn't have been able to have his way with me. After I left the hotel that day, Simon texted me severally again, apologizing for forcing me. He told me that he loved me, and he couldn't bear losing me again. I ignored his text and even took a week off work. I didn't know how to handle things. Throughout that week, Simon kept texting and calling me, and David grew suspicious of the calls I kept getting, although I told him it was work, and that I wasn't going to answer it because it was my time with my family, and I blocked Simon's number so he couldn't reach me again. The next week after that, I resumed only to submit my resignation letter. Simon was shocked by it, and then he promised to leave me alone, but only if I didn't quit. I was glad when he made good his promise. He didn't send me any texts or call me for anything other than work, and I was happy. I thought that I was getting away with everything, until that party. It was Alex's 17th birthday, and I suggested that we celebrate it grand style. Also because he was leaving for college soon, and celebrating his birthdays with him would be over the phone after that. David agreed with me, and we planned his birthday. We invited his friends and also our friends. I even invited people from work. I wanted to show off my smart son, who had scholarships lined up for him to study at any school of his choice. The preparation of the party went well, and everything was in order. The kids helped me plan it, and we bonded well over that period. But something really terrible happened the night before the party. Something that I will continue to regret for the rest of my life. I had to work late at the office that day, and I had called David to inform him about it. It was impromptu, and I couldn't leave without finishing it, because I needed it for the next day's presentation. So I stayed back after office hours and worked on it. I didn't know that Simon was still around. I barely ever saw him since we ended things. So I didn't know he hadn't left work, until he came to my office. He looked sad and he was drunk. I tried to be there for him as a friend. I swear I didn't plan for anything to happen that night. I was only comforting him. He told me that his wife was leaving him. She filed for a divorce, and he was heartbroken. He cried like a baby that night, and kept saying things like everyone he loved always ended up leaving. But somehow, from comforting him, we ended up having sex. It wasn't planned or anything. He was just so sad, and when he kissed me, I couldn't push him away. I allowed him to do everything he wanted with me. I told myself that it was really the last time, and that after this, I would never do it again. And when I got home, I quickly took a shower, as if it would erase the evidence of what I had just done. The next day, I expected everything to go the way it should, but nothing was the same, and I should have known, especially with David's sudden change in attitude. He didn't sleep in the same bed as me that night, and when I woke up to prepare breakfast for him and the kids, he had left the house. I thought it was probably work-related issues, so I ignored it. Luckily that morning, Simon wasn't at work. He had to travel, so I was pleased I didn't have to face him. and after my presentation at work, I took the rest of the day off so I could continue planning the party. David was supposed to join me, but he didn't. He only came in when the party started, and he ignored me completely too. I didn't understand what was wrong, and I planned on asking him after the party, but I never got that chance. I kept interacting with everyone, introducing my son to everyone, telling them about his scholarship offers and the school he planned on going to. Everything was going on so well, just until my phone beeped with a message. When I looked at it, I saw it was from Simon, so I tried to switch it off and focus on the party without reading it. But David, he saw what I was doing, and he quickly snatched my phone out of my hand, and he read the message out loud, for everyone to hear. I was so shocked when I myself heard the content of the message. He wrote explicitly how he felt when we slept together again that last night. He said he would miss me and said some other rubbish. The concluding part of the message had been, "I know that you think your husband will always make you happy, but back in college and now, I know I'm the only one who truly knows you and your body." I tried to deny it. I was desperate to get David to believe me. I told him that it was probably a mistake, that Simon probably intended to send it to someone else, that he was only a boss to me. But David just glared at me and he brought out his own phone. I remember his exact words. "I wasn't planning on doing this today, but since you're being so shameless, I might as well do it." David played a recording on his phone. It was Simon and I moaning from last night. Apparently David had called me last night to check on me, and I must have mistakenly picked the call. I felt so horrified. My kids, they looked at me in disgust. Alex just stood up and walked away, followed by his sisters. David told everyone that the party was over, that I had ruined it with my affair. Then he told me that he never wanted to see me again. He said that he wanted me gone before morning, and then he left too. Everyone started leaving one by one too, but not before they said their piece to me. I was called different names. I saw my junior colleagues who respected me look at me in shame. And after everybody was long gone, I sat there and cried hard. It was only when one of the workers came to tell me that I had to leave because the rent time for the space we used was up, that I left. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't go home. I was afraid of facing my kids and David again, especially after the look in their eyes. It's been barely 2 days since then. I've been stuck to this wretched hotel room that reminds me of everything I have lost. And I don't know what to do. I'm absolutely devastated and confused. How do I undo this? Update. Hello everyone, it's been a while since my last post here, and life hasn't been any easier for me. It has grown from bad to worse, and somehow it keeps growing more like that each day. I'm now a divorced, lonely woman, with no access whatsoever to her kids. David made sure of that. And the kids, they wanted nothing to do with me anyway, even when I went back to the house. In another desperate attempt to apologize to them, David had thrown me out and threatened to get a restraining order against me. I tried to shamelessly go to the kids' school to beg them, but the school refused to allow me to see them. They told me that their legal guardian, their father, has prohibited any visits from me. My countless calls and several texts all went unanswered. David made it clear what he wanted. I had no space in their lives, not anymore, not since I decided to cheat and thought I could get away with it. I have long quit my job, even before I was officially fired. I couldn't go back to work, not after everyone witnessed it. I was ashamed and disgusted with myself. My friends, my family, even co-workers. No one wants to be associated with me, not after everything that I had done. The rumors spread all around. I was regarded as a whore. I cannot even walk around with my head held high. Someone was always pointing fingers at me, probably using me as a bad example that no one should follow. I regret everything so much, and I know that I will forever be tormented by these regrets, especially after finding out the truth. I lost everything over someone as cowardly as Simon. The snake had managed to swoon his way back into my life to have his revenge. He not only destroyed my family, but he also put me in a lot of debt. Simon had faked being married just to get close to me again. He was never married, and he had been using my signature to siphon money from the company's account. And after a series of investigations, I was found to be an accomplice of something I never knew anything about. Now I have to work different jobs just to pay off money that I never spent. Although he is in prison right now for doing the majority. His uncle's son, who was supposed to take the company initially, had resumed the post, and he is ensuring we both pay for trying to destroy the company's image. I know I deserve everything that I have coming to me, particularly because I did everything to ruin myself. I didn't need much convincing. I was selfish and too stupid to see the truth. I wish I had done things differently. I really miss my family. I regret having let work interfere with my family. I should have spent more time with them. I should never have allowed Simon back into my life. I wish that this is just a nightmare, one that I will wake up from any day now. But it's been months now, and I still cannot seem to wake up. I wish I could go back in time, and go back to the times where David looked at me with love. Imagining my future without them in it is horrifying. Remembering how they had looked at me that day, it makes me want to scratch that day out of my life. I know that David will move eventually, if he hasn't already. Imagining David with a new woman in his life, and the kids with a new mom hurt badly. Another woman will take my place in their lives. She will be the one to go to their games, talent shows. She will be the one to clap proudly for them when they win. She will be the one to stand in the picture on Alex's graduation, and the girls too. I have lost that privilege, and it hurts so much. I hate myself even more each day, and I don't think I can ever forgive myself, ever. This is my last post here. Not that you guys care. You think the same of me as the rest of the world. Thanks and goodbye.